Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, February 26th, 2016, the WNW number 228. My lead story, this ceasefire that really didn't get a lot of publicity, but I'm telling you, it's more than just the ceasefire, and I'll explain this in a minute. U.S., Russia reached difficult Syrian ceasefire plan. Difficult. It's difficult because it's a dead end, I think. It's difficult because it's a total dead end. And you have John Kerry, if he's the one negotiating anything for the United States after the Iran nuclear deal, where he didn't understand what was going on with the inspection of military sites, which is what it was all about, and he didn't get anything in writing. If he's the one doing the deal, then for sure, in my opinion, it'll be a big, huge failure. But here's what the ceasefire plan is building towards, and this is one of the headlines I pulled off. Take this in now. Western nation building. John Kerry says if ceasefire fails, which of course it will, he may partition Syria. Oh, really? You are just going to unilaterally go in and draw up some boundaries in a foreign country and partition it with the Russian military there in Syria saying no, trying to kick out all these guys out of their country, in Hezbollah? You're just going to go in there and petition a big swath of Syria for Sunni refugees and Kurds and whatever. Really? No, that ain't going to happen. Forget it. And on top of that, Kerry, in another report, he says, up to 30,000 U.S. troops needed for safe zone in Syria. Really, the safe zone? You're going to just have a safe zone? What would that be like if, maybe the UN came in and said, well, your Texas border is wide open. You got all these people pouring across. You need to have a safe zone in Texas. How do you think people in America would think about some foreign entity coming in saying, we need to partition part of your country? Think that would go over well with Americans or Texans? I lived in Texas. I didn't know it wouldn't go over well in Texas. And so this whole deal in Syria, if he's planning when this deal that he just negotiated fails, because they always do, the Iran deal is building a big war and paying Iran tons of money to, in this deal that he didn't get a signature on. Think about how crazy that is. Oh, we have a nuclear deal with Iran, but no signatures. Then Iran's going to have snapback, we'll have snapback sanctions. Really, with Iran going all over Europe, handing out, business in the billions of dollars all over Europe, you're going to have snapback. No, you're not going to have snapback and sanctions. That's not going to happen. So if Kerry is thinking about putting upwards of 30,000 U.S. troops into the hottest of hot zones of Syria to partition it without the permission of Russia and Syria, forget it. That ain't going to happen. That's going to cause World War III, boom, just like that. And we've already got Saudi and other Arab troops on the southern border of Syria, and all kinds of rumors of them wanting to go in and invade it. Now they're going to have the ceasefire, so that's not going to happen, at least in the immediate future. Also, Turkey and their hints of invading in the northern part of the country, and then Russia moving this brand new missile carrier off the eastern Mediterranean coast. I think they have tactical nukes on board. I think they could make short work of any kind of invasion, no matter how big it is, the Russians. But listen, this is not going to work out. It is not getting better over in Syria, and also the refugees in Europe. That crisis is growing by the day. Some officials over there are thinking that there could be total anarchy in a matter of a few weeks, and that the whole systems could be breaking down. So that's going horrible. That whole deal is going completely horrible. The FBI also, in rumors of war and war around the world. I just want to bring this up because this is another story that I'm pretty frightened of, and it didn't get a lot of press, and that is China heating up the South China Sea. Now, I don't think they're actually heating the temperature of the South China Sea, but they're heating up the situation down there. They built all these islands over the past couple of years in the South China Sea. They're claiming this area and these islands. They're projecting their force out into the South China Sea, even though it's hundreds of miles from the coast of China. This is about a 600 square mile area we're talking about, the South China Sea. And they are building sophisticated radar, sending missiles and fighter jets to some of the islands they built down there. Now, America isn't really happy about this. They say they're going to increase patrols. It's highly contested. Other countries claim portions of this area, which is an international shipping waterway, the South China Sea. Countries like Japan and Vietnam and also the Philippines all claim sections of this area. China says that, they're within their legal rights to build these islands and take this over. I mean, after all, it's called the South China Sea, even though it has nothing to do with China. And so that's another spot that's not cooling down. And apparently China is intending on holding on to these islands that they built. And they're going to do so by force if need be. Keep your eye on the South China Sea. That is not going away at all. The FBI wants a lot more than one Islamic terrorist iPhone open. Now, this is the way they, put this case forth to the media. Oh, we need this terrorist phone opened up. And, the media is, some of the media at any rate, is kind of jumping on the side of the FBI. And, of course, the big boogeyman are terrorists. Now, listen, this was, in my opinion, San Bernardino was a legit terror attack carried out by a couple of Islamic terrorists. But here's the way the mainstream media is. Apple's legal strategy against the FBI, a tough sell. Well, tough sell to the neocons and the, New World Order people who want to spy on every single thing you do. Listen, I said last week that this phone should be opened up. This phone. And phones that should be opened up that are involved in criminal activity, better be some pretty high crimes for them to be opened up with a warrant. But you should have a warrant to open up the phones. Now, the problem is that Apple developed this new encryption service. And the other problem is that the FBI wants not only this phone opened up, which it, by the way, could get opened up. Here's a little story that... so it's not about, just to prove this is not about this. The county had the key to unlock the iPhone, so they locked it a couple of hours, San Bernardino County, after a couple of hours after the FBI had it. And why doesn't the FBI just go to San Bernardino County to open this up? Why doesn't the FBI say, whoa, this is evidence tampering and put some people in cuffs, or this is obstruction of justice? Because this isn't what this is about, unlocking this one phone. Why don't they just go to, the San Bernardino remotely locked this phone. Why don't you just get the tech people in San Bernardino County to unlock the phone? Because that's not what it's about. It's about unlocking every iPhone and getting Apple to act like, I guess, slaves to develop a way where you could hack the phone with it and turning off the encryption that destroys all the data on the phone after 10 tries. I understand that's the way it works. And the other thing is, in terms of the San Bernardino phone, which, listen, if the police want the phone unlocked of a mass murderer, that they should find a way to do that. But to give them the keys to do that to every iPhone, no! And the big boogeyman, of course, is terrorists. And did they look for a case where they could? Well, it's terrorism after all. They shot 14 people, and killed 14 people and shot 22 others. With semi-automatic weapons. And, the big boogeyman, of course, is terrorism. Edward Snowden, the former NSA worker and also the NSA whistleblower that brought to light all this bulk data collection, he weighed in on it. He tweeted that the FBI is creating a world where citizens rely on Apple to defend their rights rather than the other way around. This is Edward Snowden's tweet. Edward Snowden also contends the FBI already has most, if not all, of the information connected to this phone and this case surrounding the Islamic terrorists. He says they probably already have it. And so this is really a case of the government not wanting anyone anywhere to have any encryption, period, whatsoever. They're holding hearings in Congress over this. Some Congress people are saying Apple's going to have blood on their hands. Oh, I've changed my stance on this. I always said only this phone should be opened. But, what court papers have been filed, I had a friend of mine call me and say, listen, I'm looking at the order. They want a way to open any phone. No. I say no. That's overreach to the max. Other tech companies are also, talking about, backing Apple. But Snowden also says that, with all this spying, they're just going to kill the internet. And they may, the government. So they should not have access to all iPhones. Maybe this one, but I don't even know if they even need it. We'll see. This case is going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. We'll find out who a neocon is and who is a protector of our rights in the Supreme Court. The USA Today, from one day to the next, you can't tell what they're going to say about the economy. I mean, generally speaking, they've been telling us for, I don't know, years that we're in a recovery, and yeah, there's no recovery. I mean, we pretty well know that. But here, small business shows confidence in the U.S. in the U.S. economy. And I'm sure some small businesses are doing well. But the very next day, here's the money section of the USA Today. And here we have profit squeeze spurs fear of recession. This is big companies with, getting squeezed on their profits, and they're worried about recession. That's what the USA Today. This is one day to the next. Here are some headlines to back up that I pulled off the internet. I like to do this every week rather than to bore you with the whole story. Much of the time, the one headline, the one line on the headline says it all. Here is the Citi. This is Citibank. Risk of global recession rising. They're saying that that demand is just not picking up. And, we can have a global recession. I think we already have that if you look at the Baltic Dry Index. Here we have Halliburton cuts 5,000 jobs, 8% of workforce. Now, this is one of the only bright spots in the last few years, and that is the oil industry. And these are probably, 5,000 jobs paying $60,000 a year when you count benefits at minimum. And then here we have, credit risk growing. FDIC warns as loss provisions jumped $3.8 billion in 3 months. Part of that is because of the oil industry. The banks went all in, with the fracking industry and the oil industry, and everybody was like, we're all going to be rich. And then we have this big, huge price drop in oil, and you have banks like J.P. Morgan adding to their loan loss reserves. You have banks in trouble. Global banks in trouble. I'll be talking about some of the banks in trouble that I have coming up with Bix Weir. Bix Weir says the big problem with the global financial system, and he thinks only a matter of time will collapse. He's got a new book out. He'll talk about that too. But he says the big problem is the derivatives. And when you have Deutsche Bank with 70 trillion plus, that's the global economy, 70 trillion. One bank in Germany with that kind of leverage and risk. And he says, whoa, that 70 trillion is spread out with all kinds of other people around the world. Can you imagine that going sour? The GDP of the entire global economy going poof with one bank? A daisy chain of defaults around the world? Bad. I wanted to bring up one more thing, one more warning to you. I had Greg Manarino on, and he drew up this chart. He said that the market, the Dow, peaked in May of 2015. He's right. Then he drew up this chart, and he says, here's the 2000, peak, and here's the 08 peak, and then here's the low. Here's the 2000. Here's the low. Here's the low. Draws a line down here. Here's where we are now, and we have a pretty good little sell-off working right now. And he says, it's going to end up down here in the 5,000 to 6,000 range at least. He keeps telling me that at least. So that's, hold on, let's see if we can get that in there. Give me a little focus. There you go. In the 5,000 to 6,000 range, that's where he thinks it's going to go. That's on a long-term chart. When is it going to get there? I don't know, but he says we may be picking up speed to get there soon. He sends me this chart. I find it very interesting. I don't know anything about trading, stock picking, and if you don't know anything about it, don't do it. But I just find his analysis interesting. He says, here we have this chart he made up, and he says, here's what's going on in the last few weeks. And then he says, if you look at this wedge here, this is a negative wedge, and he thinks, it could be taking a big tanking downward. Now, things change, weekly, hourly, and when you're a trader, but this is what he's just thinking that near term, we could have a big chunk down. And a big chunk down in the Dow and the stock market sooner than later because the information is bad. The data is bad. There's no reason why you're expecting a big chunk up, except in gold and silver. Because, the real collateral, gold and silver, will be real collateral when the phony collateral, bonds, are completely corrupted and defaulted on. Here's another side of the Times that I saw, and I read this. I said, whoa, this is big. This is Kashkari. He's running for governor he was a former Goldman guy. Actually, he was with Hank Paulson. And he is, Fed aid goes rogue in attack of the banks. Goes rogue. He's talking about how banks should be regulated like public utilities. Sound familiar? Like Ellen Brown. Now, I'm not sure every bank should be, basically governed like a public utility. Maybe some banks, maybe some public banks might be a good idea, because then you have the same kind of crony reward. The Democrats take over and they reward their guys with the bank with funding, and they don't reward the other guys, or the Republicans take over and they, punish the Democrats and reward the Republicans. I don't know. But these got some negative things about the banks. I'm of the mind that, I believe in bankruptcy. That's the best regulator there is. Oh, you made a mistake? Yeah, you're going to receivership. You're fired. You lose your assets. You're gone. We had the Glass-Steagall Act repealed under the later years of Bill Clinton's administration. Democrats and Republicans held hands and sang Kumbaya. And, then we have these investment banks that got into trouble in the mid-2000s, and then they needed bailouts in 2008, and now we don't have really investment banks anymore. Goldman Sachs doesn't have a single branch or a drive-through that you could walk into in terms of commercial banking, yet they have FDIC insurance. And I say, if you believe in capitalism, and I do, you got to believe in bankruptcy. So the bailouts, yet no way. And he thinks that he thinks there could be another bailout, and they're going to make another attempt at that. And next time we have an even bigger crash in the markets, which I think is surely coming. Finally, I just want to bring up one more story here about Donald Trump in USA Today. And I've been dogging him over the negative coverage. I mean, every time you see a story about Donald Trump on the front page or back pages of USA Today, it's some negative story. And here's one that happened on USA Today. It was Thursday. And actually, they gave a fairly positive headline. I guess they have to, after he won South Carolina and creamed everybody in Nevada. And there's his delegate count. He's in the 80s, and the other guys are in the teens. And I think, listen, when I first came out and told you about who I liked in the election, I liked Trump, Cruz, Rubio, Carson, and Fiorina. Well, Fiorina's out, but these two guys right here, I think they're jockeying for a position in the White House, maybe a VP spot, something like that. In the next, week or so, it's going to become painfully obvious that the Trumpster is likely going to win the nomination. I mean, if the Republicans try to do something evil to him, and they're talking about his his tax returns and some mob ties and whatever, anything they can do to trash him. Meanwhile, they don't trash Hillary Clinton at all, who jeopardized national security, who basically, with the Clinton, I call the Clinton Crime Foundation, has some very nefarious dealings where, play to pay, bribery. Hillary Clinton over and over again did something for someone, and the Clinton Foundation got a large donation, or Bill Clinton got a big speaking fee. Isn't that something? Edward Snowden disclosed that they were doing all this bulk spying and bulk data collection, which reportedly hasn't stopped a single attack. And Hillary Clinton, who had her own private server, who no doubt jeopardized national security, she's running for president. You can't make that up. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USA Watchdog with your comments and your donations. That helps us out. Remember, fear not. Prepare yourself physically, mentally, and above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father is in charge.